We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such.
Are you serious? Like, we at season 7, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons. Yeah, season 7. Magic number. If you know, you know. I'm not gonna go in depth with that, but yeah, this will be a very positive season. I don't know why and what's making me say that, but everything's changed. I'm still, like I said, stuff is very fluctuating now. I found that the connection with things is to get people to talk, as well as me taking time to talk. So you'll notice it, especially when you hear the first few episodes of this season. But it's just about sitting down and just having good talk, good conversation. Pass the message. Y'all know they ain't going nowhere. If you know, you know. If you've been around for a while, you already know how we give it up. But just hang in there. The content's amazing. The moves are even more amazing. And just put yourself in the right headspace to get this information. So hope y'all enjoy. What is up? What is going on? Episode 385 of The Past is here. I'm your host, BT, and wow, I think my last 3 or 4 recordings, if not more, I've had guests on. So me sitting at the mic and kind of giving y'all a quick rundown and talking about life has not been a thing for quite some time. So I guess it's time for us to, I don't even want to say paint a new picture, but to kind of switch it up a little bit. So I hope everyone's doing well. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I have been immensely in go mode. Wow. Yeah, I'm going back and looking. So from June up until now, I have had 4 guests. And that's been in a span of about, 379, I had Nishan, 380 Traveling with Trauma, 381 NBA Free Agency, which was kind of a quick hit or miss. Then it was 382 with Talking Business and Tech with Sean, which was a great show. 383, Desi was on. We were in Desi's Den. 384 was one of my faves. I had Ramona on, and we did kind of a recollect of life, kind of where things were for us 3 years ago and where things are for us now. And we're here now. As you can see by the title, it is referencing the year of 40. So by the time you all hear this audio, because I'm going to try my best to edit quickly, I would like to have it up by my birthday on the 41st, on the 4th, when I'll be 41. Thinking over, and I'll go ahead and give y'all a fair share. This is likely going to be a teaser in it up. I will tell you in advance, this will likely be a teaser of the year in review for this year. Of course, the year in review, I talk more in depth. I'm probably going to go with a simpler yet milder approach this year by kind of having like it just be me and my thoughts and what I'm going through and what's going on type of ordeal. So we'll let that all fall where it may accordingly. But let's turn back and really look at this year of being 40 and heading into 41. I can be the first to openly tell you that literally, if you were to tell me I would be where I am this time at on September 2nd of 2022, if you were to tell me I'd be doing what I'm doing now on September 2nd, 2023, I would say I don't believe you. And there's a lot to unpack and a lot to discuss regarding that. First and foremost, I went through, and I'm still, it's still a thing now, so I don't want it to seem like I'm downplaying it when I say this. I've been in the midst of if you want to call it that, a reconfiguration of friends, a reconfiguration of connections. And a lot of people are still in the mix. A lot of the mixing has been remixed. A lot of folks have been put in new positions. And I always use the phrase, with great power comes greater responsibility. My routine got forcefully changed. I noticed more than anything when I started the workout journey, that was where I was really starting to get like a more open handle to how I'm operating or how I'm moving or what I want to do and how is it going to go? What does that look like? Things of that nature. It's still surreal that many of you all who listen to the show, and a lot of you, this may be your first time. I am a big routine oriented or structure based person. I don't mind freestyles. I don't mind trick 'em ups. I don't mind, things are going to happen. I understand that that's a part of life. That's totally okay. But I've noticed more than anything, my mornings became a more dedicated path in a way that I still have to adjust to. And this is going to be a full circle / aha moment, even me talking about it now. So we're going to go back to October of last year. And my boy, who happens to be my personal trainer now, I'm going to get to that in a bit. But he and I normally have a thing that we do where every couple months we'll kind of have our guy time. And our guy time is usually like, let's go to the bar, let's go to a pool hall, let's kind of just sit, chop it up, catch up, do the mental check-in, et cetera, et cetera. This particular day we did it, and he could see it, he could feel it. It was very clear that I was just not in the best state that I felt I could be in with a lot of stuff that had been going on. I wasn't like, let me be clear, there wasn't like anything anxiety wise. It wasn't on a mental burnout or wasn't depressed. It was just more, I didn't like who I was as far as how I felt with a lot of what I was doing. And, you know, we sat, we talked, we played pool, we had a few drinks, we laughed, we did the whole nine. And he said, okay, I'm going to help you with this journey. And I'm going to tell you now, it is definitely going to be a journey. And you're going to go through the ups, the downs, the ins and outs, the massive battles that come with doing, with losing weight. And a lot of it has more, a lot of it is, let me make sure I'm clear with what I'm about to say. The losing weight portion of it is one element, but the bigger element is just feeling better in the process. I'll talk. I'm open to talking about it now. My weight has fluctuated a bit in the threes. It hasn't gotten past 305. I'll say at the max that I've seen. I haven't seen it get past 310. But even in it getting near the threes, past the threes, upwards of 3 is just not it. Especially when I look at different pictures, when I look at different times that I've been out with people, it's definitely been a change, and I did not like it. So he and I, we sat and talked. He said, let me, check on some stuff, let you know what's what tomorrow, which at that time, the next day obviously was that, it was a Friday. I think we met up Friday. We talked, got things rolling on Saturday with me getting into working out. Now, to give a backstory to this that's even more interesting is a few years ago when I was going to school, we had this exact same conversation. I think he had just gotten certified in personal training. And I was like, I'm thinking about it. I'm going to see what I want to do. And I really didn't push the button on it too much. Now it's like, look, I'm breaking the button. Forget pushing the button. I am beating it. Like, I'm not going to beat on this table because I know sound and audio. But I was definitely giving that attention to my health and my well-being. So about a week or so, I think less than a week later, I get in to do an assessment with his manager, Aubrey, who, if she happens to listen to this show, Aubrey, I do want to have you on the show. I'm beginning to be more open to doing interviews, and I'm gonna talk about that later on, way down the line, because I'm still, even when I sit here and talk about this now, it's still some, like, we had an interview, and it's been just an aha moment on multiple levels. But I say all of that to say, I met Aubrey. We had talked, I had some conversations kind of here and there, but not fully. But we were able to kind of get to know each other. She kind of gave me the rundown on what was going to happen, kind of the expectations of doing the workout. She kind of did like an evaluation assessment type of workout. That was one of the first times that my body was like, bro, we have not done any form of genuine working out ever. My workout was playing ball, jumping rope from time to time, doing a little bit of walking, doing some running, maybe messing around with tennis a little bit, play football or whatever. But as far as like being in the gym, like the times that I've gone to gyms or had people, you worked with folks as far as them having gym memberships, I was doing very minimal workout exercises. So like the rowing machines, the treadmill, I really wasn't a treadmill person. I would use the step machine from time to time. A couple times I would do free weights. Didn't really know any free weight exercises like that, but just kind of was tinkering with it a little bit then. So I do the assessment with her, and about a week or so later, I connect with Mark. Mark's been on the show before. If you've listened to a couple of shows, Kaze has been like the little big bro on so many levels. So here we are now, 42, I think 42 or 43 weeks later. And I will 100% say, since working out with him, and this is probably like a public testimonial without being one, it has definitely made me comfortably uncomfortable with being comfortable. And what I mean by that is, normally my morning routine was wake up, BS for like an hour, maybe 2 hours, and then go to work. Now it's wake up at 5, take a 15-minute walk, jump rope, try to do usually three sets of 70, go inside, do my actual daily exercises that I'm working on, being better with my caloric intake, which was something I never really paid any attention to. And then, doing morning pages or journaling, which I'll get into that as well, about something that I might be trying out soon. And just having like an actual structured routine, like meditating, just doing stuff that was kind of in a different box from what I was accustomed to. So I've said it to, and he's been thankful, he's been appreciative of it. But I think personally, like, just some of the things that I've done in like the workouts have been immense. Like, most people on my personal Instagram page, there was a photo, and I might make it the cover art. I'm thinking about that, where I'm literally laying on my back, and it's a stretch that I do He has me do at the end of each exercise, at the end of each workout. And the first few times I would do that stretch, I was like, it was like a mind over matter. There was like this, oh my God, my legs, my body, everything hurting out. But now I pretty much can lean back and my head can touch the mat, which tells a lot as far as flexibility, as far as the comfortability, the adjustment and transition and routine of doing it. Everything comes down to patterns and just doing something consistently over and over. And then you get into a groove of like, all right, let's do it. And that's pretty much what this has been in working and doing the workouts. Still got a ways to go. Aubrey made a group, kind of like a group chat or like a group check-in to see, you know, who's working on what days. And when it first started, I still remember the message where someone was saying like, you're gonna have to invest at least a year to really start seeing changes happen. And I can definitely attest to the fact that I'm about 2 or 3 months away from a year, or actually 2 months away from a year. And now I would say like like June, definitely July, certainly August, I started to notice like what this is, you know, how this is going to work, how this has to work, what I have to do on my end, how to be more flexible, most of all being more accountable. Even something as simple as doing a plank. Like first couple days, there were a few weeks where he would have me do a plank, and I'm doing a plank, couldn't even hold myself up for like 15, 20 seconds. Now I can do planks upwards of a minute and a half. Done a couple 2-minute planks. I did the August plank challenge. Wasn't the greatest August plank challenge, but I definitely know the importance of the core, learning how important that is, how that's like kind of the root factor of a lot of your workouts. So it's been just an eye-opening aha experience, to say the least. So I wanted to get that out there. It's kind of like a good starting point. As many of you know, I always do the year in review podcast. This year was probably one of the first podcasts. I was close to having 5 guys. We ended up having 4. And it ended up being one of my most interesting podcasts I've done in quite some time, just off of the simple fact that more went on. Like when you're a person who's forced to be observant with doing a podcast, you pay attention to things that you least expect paying attention to. Like I'm already a big sound person to begin with, but I became more of a sound person when I realized like, all right, I need to really be looking at everything and making sure stuff is maintained. Like even down to when you set up like audio, like people don't understand, because I guess they're, you know, when you're accustomed to most podcasts, everybody got a microphone, and it's like, yeah, but let's all remember, like there are times when you're starting off, you can just have a single microphone and everyone talks, you know, through that microphone, but just knowing how to be respectful of each person's input, things of that sort. But that was a good show, you know, good content by far. My designing went, so from a web and a graphic design aspect, I will be 400 million% honest. I just recently started getting more in the groove with the design flow, as far as connecting with people, setting stuff up, making it a habit to really dedicate time to designs. I have a few books that I'm looking to read very soon that are going to be very resourceful in getting the design flow back going. I've realized like I can't part-time brand a full-time business. And I've been treating my full-time job as a full-time job, but I've been treating my full-time business as a part-time effort. And it's just not a good idea to do. So I'm taking responsibility on that. Definitely been all about accountability. Most of my friends have heard me preach on how important accountability has become, how my engagement is very different with a lot of things. I've become kind of like a content addict. And when I say a content content addict, I mean it in the sense that I'm finding the content that is beneficial to consume, but also sharing the content that's beneficial to help others grow and evolve. So that's been a helpful piece by far. I want to say when my birthday hit, I might be wrong, but I think we were in our new location when I was working in service desk. All I can say is like I said earlier, who and where I was at this time last year versus where I'm at now are two different areas. Because now I'm working as a software engineer. If you want to use the term associate software engineer, that's fine too. I've definitely, and I'm beginning to get a better grasp of the process now in ways that I didn't realize it was important to get a grasp of the process. And what that means or what that looks like is the things that I would normally be so stressed out about are so like, oh my God, I can't do this, I can't do that. It's like, you can do it. You just have to be cordial in the process of doing it. One thing that has really stuck out to me and one thing that I'm always seeing the importance of doing is just taking your time. A lot of times in our lives and in our day-to-day, you have folks that are going 100 miles an hour. And I've seen it time and time again. Anyone that's doing something that's in a rush state, those are the ones you're there for them, but you got to be there for them in a very meticulous manner, because they will run you rampant. And then you're sitting there like, well, I did not expect this to be where this went to, but here we are. And yeah, I'm just not a fan of that. If it's forced on me, then I'm not rolling with it. And a lot of folks are starting to kind of gather that ideology or that concept in so many words. My planning went in a very funny direction in a good way. I want to remember I'm going to talk about social media too, because that's been like a jarring topic in this unique space with a lot of stuff I'm doing. But as I ended 2022, I was in a digital planning state. I was like, I don't have it with me, but I was on the iPad kick with doing like reading most of my books from my iPad. I was using GoodNotes for a lot of my note taking. I was on Notion. I was doing a lot of my journaling through GoodNotes. I was doing my actual day-to-day planning as well as my journaling through my iPad. There were a lot of good things with doing that, but there were also a lot of frustrating things with doing that. And I learned that as I was beginning to circle into 2023, which 2023 made me, my theme to start off the year was shine bright like a diamond. Again, I'm saying all this now. A lot of this is going to be a preview of the year in review. So if a lot of it is like, oh, you're going to talk about this again, sorry, you're going to hear it again. But you'll at least get kind of the sneak peek of it in this Reflecting 40 podcast. The beginning of the year, nearing the end of last year, the beginning of this year, I was like, you know what? The digital part was cool. Let me take it back to what I know, and that's pen and paper. Starting to kind of go on a digital minimalist factor, which I started to read Cal Newport's book, Digital Minimalism, have a physical copy. I believe I have a digital copy on my Kindle. I bought another Kindle because I had gifted my previous Kindle to someone. Actually, she's been on the show before. Her and I had like a split near the start of my birthday. We got back on good terms a couple of months ago. That's been a better vibe by far. Going to the planning aspect, handwritten planning has been like everything. The lesson I have from my last bullet journal is everything can go in your bullet journal, but everything does not need to go in your bullet journal. Case in point, there were notes. When I go back and look at it now, I realize how I used up a lot of pages because I was writing a lot of resourceful tips in my bullet journal that did not need to go in my bullet journal. They needed to go into like a separate notebook. And now, as of a few days, I would say last night, going into this more a little bit today, I was introduced to the term or the book Commonplace, which is a notebook that is almost like a catch-all notebook. But it's not your bullet journal, it's not your journal, it's not your planner. It is literally a more, hey, this is an idea, this is something that popped up, right? I need to write it down real quick. Ironically, a few months ago, I had a friend of mine on, Tara, and her and I that was a good conversation with talking business. But I was telling her about the idea and the concept of one of the most resourceful tools that we use the least is pen and paper. And the easiest way of getting those, if you're wanting one that's not as expensive, but the quality may or may not be the best, Dollar General has like the little notebooks. You can get like a 3-pack for maybe $1, $2. They're cool. Go to Walmart. You can get the 3-pack that they have. I think I got the black, red, and blue notebooks. And they were like $1. And then you just get like a couple, find a good ink pen that's to your liking. And anyone who knows me knows I'm always collecting pens. So even right now, like I always have like my little notebook with me. It's just a matter of me having to remember, like, let me make sure I keep a pen on me as well, because anything can happen at any time if I'm trying to write something down. So I keep that available. The Commonplace notebook is the one that I just recently got it's going to be a dotted notebook. So let me go back a little bit, because I've always talked about bullet journaling. I've explained it different times on the podcast, but I want to make sure people really get the concept. Bullet journaling is for those who do not personally prefer to use the time block count planners, who do not use the traditional happy planners, passion planners, Rolodex planners, all of the different calendar planners that are out there, at a day at a glance planners. This is more of you open the pages, you set what you want your notebook or your design to look like. Because I'm a guy and I'm also all about simplicity, I've kind of stuck with the minimalist format, and it's worked for me. And what I mean by that is I write the day, I write out what I'm going to do that day. And then anything that I'm working on as the day progresses, I'm writing those things down. Like, okay, I did this, I did this, I did this. These are the things that I need to get accomplished today. And once I see those things in my notebook, I can use those as reference. Like, okay, I got this done. I got this done. There was one point, and I still do it from time to time, and I may start doing it again, where I would keep track of how much time I was spending on my phone. The bullet journal also helps as a habit tracker, because you can pretty much track anything. Like, you can track how you're eating, you can track your water intake, you can track your mood. A lot of people use it for moods. Like, okay, a lot of people joke on the whole kids concept when they're saying, like, a kid had a bad day or they had a good day or whatever. But in some instances, it's creative to utilize that in the simple fact that you might not have had the best day today. And we need to see, why didn't we have a good day today? What can make tomorrow better? Like, every day is a good day, but some days may not be your best day. And that's something that you have to sit and take time to reflect. And you have that opportunity. So I was using it, and I possibly might do that again. With the daily write-ups, and just putting like the hours in a minute. Like, I usually will just write the hour in a minute, and I know what it means, because that's the other part of bullet journaling. You make it or cater it to your desire and your needs. Some people are very detailed, they have very, very artistic designs and styles that they'll put in their bullet journal. Nothing wrong with that at all. Ironically, when I first started bullet journaling in 2020, I bought like a whole bunch of stencils. I think I still have the stencils, but I really don't use them that often, because it was like, I had so many that I was just like, I'm not going to use half of these, but I still keep them just in case I decide to go back to that option or that style. I keep those available. So yeah, the Commonplace notebook I'm looking to start soon. I have my old old bullet journal with me because, like I said, I went through that one a little faster than expected. So I'm using my new bullet journal that I got from Journal by Design, and I'm calling it the Burr Bujo, I think, since it will consist of September, October, November, and December. And I'm looking to really give more attention and or TLC to it as well. So it may turn into a situation like I have the commonplace notebook that I got. I might be just using this as kind of like a Bujo / commonplace since it's going to be for 4 months anyway. And I did recently get the Bullet Journal Edition X, which if you're not following me on my Instagram page, I mentioned it earlier, Brate1982, I did like about a 10-minute video explaining the looks and feels, the newness of what you're getting with that edition. Like one of the features alone, having when you close a book, a lot of people don't think of it being a big deal, but if you can look at a book and see gold pages, that distinguishes certain books from others. So if I see that, I'm like, oh, I remember that being whichever year, which I'm going to likely be using that one for 2024 and going from there. So that's where I'm at with that. Haven't spoken much on this on the podcast, but it has been a big thing. I have been going to therapy. Therapy has been very, no pun intended, been very therapeutic. Just having a space to talk to someone, when you're asked different questions that you normally would not think to answer, but you answer them because you're like, not just answering them because the person said it, but you're answering it because it's like, you know what, that is a very good question. And I did not think about that until you just said it. So being able to have that space to talk to a therapist has been helpful. I'll make it clear because there's nothing that really needs to be said, but what need not be said is real. And that is, I've been very disconnected from a lot of the tabloids, the pop culture, the trendy stuff, even down to music. And I think I've kind of almost said this when I was saying this a couple times on the podcast. I listen to a lot of music. Most people know that, but I'm not really hip to a lot of the newer out. Like when a new album releases, I almost forget that it comes out. Like even I happen to see a friend of mine post the Victoria Monet's new album, Jaguar 2, which I listened to that on the way here, and yeah, that's a go. That one definitely gonna get some play. I may be sharing a couple tracks from that on in my music group. Speaking of groups, I made 2 groups because we had a Space to Music has been running now, I think, for over a year. Yeah, for over a year. And a Space to Tech I just introduced this year. Space to Sport, still been a Space to Sport. I had Nashawn on a couple episodes ago. We've talked it up about how we've been handling that group, and that's been eye-opening by far. Segueing a little bit from the groups, but also talking about social media, because in my 40s spin, this has been like the interesting thing that I've seen, because I think the start of this all went down in 2021, but then between like by the time my birthday hitting and then just watching how social media ran for the last year has been making it clear where we are and where I'm headed. And it's making me remember, like, I got to utilize the skills that I have. And here's where I'm going with that. And again, another one of those, I've talked about this, but for folks who this might be their first listen, this is something to kind of think about. Nearly 10 years ago, if not longer, you had big dogs on the market, which were Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Those were your main 3, like, if you know, literally. MySpace was on its way out, and those 3 were kind of running the show. Mark Zuckerberg made a push back in 2021 to put Facebook, Instagram, Oculus, WhatsApp, and now Threads, because ironically Threads was out back then, but Threads didn't really get much attention, so they shut the app down. but that's going to be important to this story, and I'll explain why in a moment. But all of them were put under the code name Meta, which introduced the metaverse. It made AI become more of an awareness thing to us, because people don't realize, like, AI has existed for quite some time, artificial intelligence, but the attention behind it has been a lot more boasting in the last few years. So here it is. Meta goes through that whole transformation. Facebook's starting to get a little wonky, a little leery with what they're doing. Both Facebook and Instagram are pressing this whole real ID or real account, where if you submit your ID, you have to give your real name. And I think you have to pay it's a subscription fee, and folks are like pulled into it. Twitter does the same thing. Twitter still, like, as soon as Elon took over, I've been really keeping Twitter, now called X, under a microscope, because Elon decides to let a lot of the developers go, makes a lot of major changes to the platform, kind of makes this push of like, go outside and touch grass because you should not be online all day long. And it's like, you do understand most people will just put the phone down and then just go to the consoles or go to other websites and go online. So one app is powerful, but not that powerful to get folks off the internet. But I digress. Especially when we were in the peak of COVID, like, just to be clear. So you have that happening. Then, like I said, or like I just mentioned, Twitter's name became X, and then X became this like chaotic zoo of nonsense online. So Mark Zuckerberg, decided to resurrect the application Threads, which ironically, I had Threads on my phone. I don't think I have it now because I use it for a fair amount of time, but the attachment just ain't there for it, because it was like ooh, this is nice. This is a new shiny toy, but it ain't hitting for what is really hitting for, in my opinion. And then May happens. And I already was thinking about this before then, but I actually did a podcast at the time when all of this happened. So I was like, I'm gonna take a trip out of the, take a trip up the street, as I call it, going to Virginia Beach, unwind, unpack, unplug, the whole nine. And had a good time, had a solid good time, really valued the getaway, valued the unplug, because it was necessary. It was non-negotiable. And go down there. A friend of mine, I knew we had already kind of collaborated on saying, like, I was like, hey, once I get down there, once I get settled, get situated, once I know you got to work, we'll link up, and we'll sit and like chop it up and just talk about some stuff. She said, all right, that's cool. So we did that. And I get the hotel. I had already done my reservations and everything. The main thing I was doing, like, once I got down there, I was like, all right, I need to find somewhere to like play pool, kick it, unwind, whatever. So I found a pool hall, got some games in. Long story short, when her and I met, we, this was like our first time meeting up in like over a decade. And sometimes, like, when you meet people, it's always like that. Oh, it's uncertainty. Like, we haven't talked in a while, but we would talk. But it's like now we're like in person. So, but our conversation was legit. She's I'm fingers crossed. I don't want to speak on her behalf because, like I said, I don't know everybody moving and shaking. So, she was doing she's doing her business. I'm hoping she's getting her business pushing with web and graphic design. Because she's been doing graphics on Canva. She's been doing websites through, I believe, Squarespace or Wix. I'm not sure. But I say this all the time. It does not matter where you start as long as you're doing it. That's the main thing. Like, once you get into the intangibles, you get to the weeds, and you have your specifics and your preferences of what you like. You learn where you're welcome in what you do. And I say all of that to say that now I'm beginning to see and this goes back to the bullet journaling of reverting backwards. I kind of reverted in really realizing how important it is to know the main four when it comes to businesses. A lot of people will push business more through, and I'm probably going to piss a lot of people off with what I'm about to say, Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, Twitter, whatever, Clubhouse. They're using all of these platforms to build their business. If not that I'm putting this out there of something to have to be a thing, but if it were to become a thing, it's something that a lot of people don't think about. If these apps all were to get shut down by the bigger corporations in some way, shape, or form tomorrow, how are you getting your business out there? Majority of the people don't have an answer. They don't have a fault. They don't have a fallback. They don't have any form of online presence outside of that. Enter the big four. Website. You make a simple website, Shopify, Wix, Squarespace. Heck, Google Business. I don't know if they're still doing it now, but I know Google Business was big at one time with helping people with getting their business up and going. Get your website. Get your get a logo or a design. If you don't feel like doing Canva, if you aren't comfortable with designing, you feel like you're not tech savvy, go to Fiverr, go to Upwork. Someone will do it for you at an affordable rate, which is reminding me to remember to push my brand on Fiverr and Upwork because I have profiles there as well as Alignable. Those are places that are like networking havens when it comes to business. You just have to be sure you're doing your part with getting your business out there to people. So we said website, we said graphic logo, cold email. I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, email, really? That's what you think is gonna be a thing?" I'm like, yeah, because most people, whether they claim to or not, are latched and attached to their email. Their email is almost like a very reliant source of update and information to what they're doing and how they're trying to get through their day-to-day. And I'm a layer this a little bit because someone had this conversation with me and I'm having this conversation with you all. Where it really is going to start to hit home is once you're doing business with people, it's much easier and it looks much cleaner when someone is coming to you for business and you have a actual business domain email address versus you having a gmail.com. And that's all I'm gonna say. I'll layer it, but I'm gonna layer it, of course. But I just want to start with that because Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, even though there are email addresses that have been in existence for quite some time, to a lot of people who are prospective business people, it can look scammy. Now, let me be clear. If you're using a Gmail account, and this is something that everyone has access to, I believe in my show notes, I always share this, and no one's probably ever used it, but I would recommend using this. There is a link that will help you with setting up a signature for your email accounts, whatever domain you're under. Because I think that will be the first step to really being managed or handled as being reputable. Even with the company I'm with now, with Markel, they're big on reminding you to get, when you have your signature, you want to have your signature to be as uniform as possible and streamlined with the information necessary to know that you're a reputable person for a reputable company. Yeah, we see the markel.com in your email address, but if you have the information with it, then it makes it a much easier flow through and not as much of a conundrum of chaos, if you will. So website, logo, cold email, Fourth one is going to be the tricky one because I've been asked about. I've even had people come to me to ask me if I know how to do this, and I am what 6 months in, almost 6 months into my role, and that is applications, building or having an application for your business. Now, applications are a little loaded because there are two different ways you can go about it. You can either do the application where it's the traditional application itself, or you can do it as a web-based version of the application and make it a much more streamlined process as far as the development and the deployment to different platforms, which in this case, your main two are going to be iOS and Android, plain and simple. Like I said this on the Sean's podcast. I think I say this on my podcast all the time. No one cares if you have an iPhone or an Android. No one, like those who, and let me make sure I follow this up with what I'm about, with the important part. No one cares as much as the person who cares when it really isn't that big of a deal in the long run. And why I'm saying it like that is because if a person has whatever email address, whatever device they have, it don't matter which one you have if you ain't got no service. And anytime I find myself saying that to people, folks will be like, I don't want to talk about this no more. Let's talk about something else. And I'm like, it's the truth though. Like folks will get so hemmed up in, like a lot of people think because I have a lot of Apple products that I'm so, you're an Apple fanboy. And I'm like, if you know me, you know me. And you understand like why I have the Apple, why I've gone with the Apple vibe. Like I've used enough Windows computers to scream. Tablet wise, I've had a Galaxy Tab. Like any of my friends who know me well enough, have been friends with me for at least 10 years, at least 15 years, will tell you that if I didn't try it or own it, I knew someone that had it and I gave an opinion about it and I didn't use it. So I did the Galaxy Tab. I had the Galaxy. Now granted, I'm like old school. I think my last Samsung phone I had was like the S3. Let's see. Computers. I think I've had the computer brand that I want won't come back anytime soon, and that's the Sony Vaio. Sony Vaio I thought was one of the best computers ever. Unpopular opinion, but it is what it is. I think still to this day, if you buy any computer, buy a bare bone, add an operating system, you're fine. That's literally all it comes down to when it comes to Windows. Mac is a much different ball game because everything is all built in, kind of almost compressed. Even now, like the laptop I have now, which I'll talk about that in a second, it's changed from the previous laptop I had, because the laptop I had, I could go in, I could change the hard drive, I could change the RAM, things of that sort. And like I said, I had a computer for at least 8 years. I want to say like 7 or 8 years, because I got it in like 2015 or 2016. I'm tempted to say 2015. And it held up through everything. So, it is what it is. And I think the bigger impact of it more than anything was just you weren't getting any new updates. Like once I stopped getting the new iOSs, I was like, I don't think this is working out. And that leads us to here, which I'm going to talk about now. So starting my job. Oh, sorry. Let me backtrack. Not even backtrack, but let me make sure I'm giving the story properly. I had gotten the news and or confirmation that I was getting ready to start my job as a associate software engineer. And I might be early timelining it a little bit, but I remember getting the news or kind of making a decision like where I was like, yeah, you know what? I definitely want to, I was like, yeah, I need a new laptop, plain and simple. So I'm going to do a very smooth slide back and see where we are with it. Cause yeah, so the 13th. So yeah, I got the computer literally a week before I had was getting ready to start my new role. Cause I was like, yeah, I think fun story. So I'm where I am now, which I always do my podcast here. And I was like, hey, they got computers at this store. Let me get a refurb. I'm not a person who has to pay outright for a device. I can, finance, do whatever. So I saw that they had a newer laptop in stock. I was like, I just want to get a decent MacBook. I think this is a 2019, and as long as it's able to keep, stay up to date with the newer applications, that's all I cared about. And so this is the MacBook 15-inch, it's 2019, i9 processor, has 16 gigs of RAM, runs I forget, it's an app that I found that kind of gives you can always see the memory, how much memory is being used. It never breaks 80%. I've seen it get to 6, right now it says 60, might get up to 70 here and there, but it never gets too bad of how much RAM is being used. And this computer and I have just been BFFs ever since. The biggest adjustment, which isn't an adjustment, is there are no USB ports on it. So it's 4 USB-C ports. One of them is the only one to use for charging it. And we've just been rocking and rolling, man. I've been able to get way more done with this computer than I got stuff done with my other computer, don't get me wrong. But with this one, it's it's a different monster. I literally I don't have it with me, but actually I don't have either one with me. I'm able to connect my external monitor via USB-C, just plug it right in, no power supply or anything. And then if I'm really needing to do it, I can use my iPad Pro as a third monitor and pretty much work on it like I would be using. It would be almost like I got a 3-screen computer as an everyday device. And that feature in and of itself is what makes this a valuable investment. So having this has been a creator's dream come true. Now comes the fun part of using it to actually create. So I've been working a lot harder on creating more content. I think I might have mentioned it already. I went on Udemy and got a couple of courses for kind of designing or drawing, not even say drawing, but designing 101, learning how to use InDesign, how to use Illustrator, how to use Photoshop. And that's been very helpful. Finishing up that course, I'm probably about less than 25% through it. I could be wrong. But I'm working through that. And then I have a Procreate course. I have a few WordPress courses. So I'm definitely able to do a fair amount of multitasking with this computer and not be as stressed. And it's one of the best feelings in the world. So that's been that with that. Trying to think of what other things have happened over the last year reflecting 40. My hanging out days are trash. I know that much. I think my routine has literally put me in a position of, if I'm out, but I really don't want to be out if I don't have to. I do have something I'm going to share, and I'm trying to really keep myself together even as I'm talking about it now. It's when you hear certain words be said, it hits. But when you really sit with what's being said, it's it definitely hits home. And I've shared this on the podcast a couple times, but within the last 4 or 5 months, I lost 2 of my nephews, both to heart attacks. And I talked about the exercising and the working out in the beginning, but I didn't realize the magnitude of it until being knee deep in it, that both of them were also like under. It became an eye-opening moment of realizing that I really need to take care of myself and take better care of myself. We all go through our different health hits here and there, but personally, I haven't had anything to that magnitude happen, thank goodness. And the truth of the matter is, I would say for the last year, maybe 2 years, I've been taking medication for high blood pressure. I'm not looking for pity, because I got to get through life just like anybody else. But I will say that it definitely makes you look at things different when you are understanding how important it is to take care of yourself. I made the statement earlier about a message that was said at service, and trust me, when the message hit, it hit. And the message was, we're here on borrowed time. And a lot of times we really don't realize how we always hear that phrase, we're all going to leave this earth someday. But I think it's when it really hits close that you really don't know when. So your main focal point should be, and usually will be, to do everything in your power to live your life to the best of your ability while you're here. And for a lot of us, trust and believe, easier said than done. Well, I already know. But you want to you want to have the best impact on people. And that's really, if there's nothing else, like I've said a lot, and I'm likely about to wrap this up because this is not one of those like prolonged shows I need to do. But if you really want to gather or gain a message, if nothing else you heard on the show, all the information was key, valuable, golden, don't get me wrong. But the big thing that I want to bring it back to is, if there's one thing I can definitely say as I'm finishing up 40 and getting ready to hit 41, is just realizing to leave a good impact on people. I'm not sitting here saying I'm perfect. I'm not sitting here saying that I got all the answers. I'm not sitting here saying that I know how to do it, because I don't. I've been figuring this thing out since 82. And now it's just a matter of piecing it together. A lot of people, I never paid any attention to it until I really had to sit with it and realize, like, a lot of people care about me. And I know that's going to sound selfish, but that's not the objective. It's just a general statement. And I care about a lot of people just as much. I'm probably the one person who will sacrifice business time or sacrifice personal time to listen to someone, to talk with someone, to be in a space of just them having an open dialogue. And even in that position of doing it, sometimes I'm forgetting how important that is to them. Because in many instances, people will go through that and they're like, oh man, I got other stuff. I got so many other things I could be doing. But in reality, you're doing what you should be doing. And when you realize that, it hits, it all comes together. So don't ever feel like you're not impacting people's lives. The message that I'm going to pass to you all today, I'm still doing pass the message. And I've stated this probably multiple times as a message to pass along, but this is a reminder, and this is kind of going to be how I end this reflection of 40. Do not feel like you are a burden to people, or do not put yourself in a position of believing or carrying yourself as, I'm just a burden on everyone and I feel like I'm an inconvenience in people's lives. That's far from the truth. People need you just as much as you need people. As much as we value our own company, as much as we value our own effort, people really do make the world go round. And it's so layered how deep that can get when you think about it. There's a former place that I've worked that is right now in a transition with how they're handling some security-based issues. Now, this isn't on a technical level, but if you're here local, you know what I'm talking about. If not, you can reach out to me personally, and I'll kind of explain where I'm going with this. But things have to get on a personal level or on a security-based level to not impact the personals involved, because it comes down to whoever's at the top and whoever's at the bottom, and getting everyone that's in between to communicate with those people. Case in point, I say this all the time, where I work now, the important folks are the CEO and all of your higher ups. Their communication is to the stakeholders and the shareholders. How those two people communicate to each other directly is every single position within the company that I work for. And all of us doing our part to make that communication flow as fluid as possible. So don't overcomplicate the process if you don't have to, but just put yourself in a position to build and become better today than you were yesterday. I've got more reading of it to do. It's going to be my book of the month, which shout out to my friend Special for bringing that conversation around again, because I have been pushing to do book of the months, but have not really been pushing reading the book. So now I'm like, all right, book of the month, I got to do it. And my book of the month is Atomic Habits, which was supposed to be my book of the month for August, but August was Augusting very well. And we're definitely going to be, I'm definitely going to be putting a lot of time and effort into reading that book, because my push and my personal goal is to truly be 1% better every day, and to not hold any grudges or any punches in that process. And it starts by not feeling like if it's something I can or can't do, to not make it become deeper than what it should or shouldn't be, and just be as available to myself and to others as possible. So I hope that gives you kind of an overall view of what my experience was for 40. It was a lot. It went in so many directions. I know I talked about so many different things, but I hope you gained something from this message or from this podcast. If you have not already been doing so, and I know I'm always late with sharing this, but any of the podcast platforms you're able to, I know Apple Podcasts, you can definitely leave a review. I'm not sitting here saying leave a 5-star review. Leave a review. If you don't like the show, tell me you don't like the show. If you do like the show, tell me what you're liking. If you have feedback on ways to make the show better, please share. I believe it's in the closing part, but I'm going to still say it anyway. thepastbtpod@gmail.com. Yes, I know I still have a Gmail account. I've not done a Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout doesn't have email domains, but I'm also working on some stuff in the works for the podcast. Haven't talked about that yet, but I'm going to do that once I officially complete it. But please reach out. Please check in. And if you need if you need to send me an email, just say, hey, look, I need a space. Can you make an open space? I will definitely do what I can. Until next time, y'all stay safe, be a blessing, be positive, put yourself around the right people, and don't let this chaotic world get you messed up. And I'll just leave it at that. Y'all have a good one.
Another episode is completed. Thank you all for listening. If you want to check out the podcast, you can go to Buzzsprout buzzsprout.com. If you're looking to do podcasts, you can go to buzzsprout.com. To get to my podcast, you'll go to the pastbtpod.buzzsprout.com. If you're looking at getting a microphone, I always suggest getting the Blue Yeti X. That is the microphone that I use. If you're starting off and you need something more affordable, Samson Meteor, it's a worthwhile investment. And there are other microphones that are going to be simple enough. My big suggestion I tell everyone whenever looking for a microphone, be sure that your microphone has the ability to have you listen to your audio or listen to yourself as you're talking. It will make a big difference in your editing and your podcast. Also, most importantly, and I tell people this is a tip offline, but I'm giving this in the final listen or at the end of the show. Drink water while recording, and also just drink water in general. But drink water while you're recording, and the reason why, you'll be surprised. All right, see y'all on the next show.